Matters health. Now we talk about matters of entrepreneurship, but now with a keen focus on renewable energy. With me in studio is Oluoch Were, who is the Regional Director East and Kenya and East Africa for Renewable in Africa. Thank you, sir, for making time.
It's a pleasure being here.
Whenever people talk about matters of renewable energy, and there's a keen focus to solar. So from where you sit, being in that value chain, what is the status report in as far as, uptake of renewable energy, particularly solar in this case, in the country is concerned?
Roughly, Kenya has a total capacity installed of 2.3 gigawatts. That is hydro taking 57%, geothermal taking 32%, and the rest of the energy mix being wind and solar. So in this particular case, looking at solar, there's been an upsurge or uptake in the last couple of years, and as you can see, mainly from residential all the way to commercial and industrial sector, there's been a major uptake. This is mainly looking at the situation that we are currently going through in the country. Dependence on hydro and looking at the weather patterns locally, we 100% can depend on hydro, because our weather pattern is not that much reliable. So that's the reason as to why, the main reason as to why you realize people have decided to go solar.
Now, this shift, from where you sit, is it a knee-jerk reaction to, high cost of power and, lack of unreliability in power supply, or is this the direction we're taking? Is it long-term?
It's actually not a knee-jerk reaction per se, in that it's something that has been having a slow progress. And talking of reliability, we've been for the longest time depending on hydro and looking at the infrastructure. At the moment, it's not in a situation whereby it can support the current population. Around 60% of the infrastructure dates back to the colonial era. And that's the reason as to why you realize reliability is also a major issue. So the uptake of solar mainly has been on the reliability aspect of it and also the cost. That's why you realize quite a good number of commercial and industrial customers and also residential customers are switching to solar.
You've mentioned something very important, a key element in economics, buying and selling, the issue of cost, affordability. There's been this notion that, solar is quite an investment. Is it? Or what dynamics, what comes into play when you're talking about solar, when you're about to purchase a product? What should I be looking out for? Maybe we can start from residential, then escalate it to commercial and industrial.
Locally, public awareness has been a major issue, because we realize for the longest time, the masses haven't been well educated, or they don't have the knowledge, especially with regards to renewables, solar specifically. So in terms of cost, you've mentioned that if you look at the residential side of it and comparing it to the current source of energy, in terms of cost of installation, you realize it's not that much expensive, because in due time, we've been having a number of companies that are manufacturing solar appliances or solar equipments locally, and which has actually helped in price reduction. So looking at residential aspect of it, you realize that the cost, in as much as it may not be that much affordable, but we're heading somewhere whereby we'll be having like pocket-friendly equipments, whereby people will be able to not only purchase but also install freely. Yeah.
Now let's look at the manufacturing sector. It has already been identified as a big four agenda, one of the pillars, issues of value addition, but manufacturers, private sector has come out and said that the cost of power, the fact that it is not reliable enough, is making cost of operations go up. So what role can renewable energy play to ensure at least we bring down the cost of production from where you sit?
Renewable energy, looking at the Kenyan perspective, especially Vision 2030, it's one aspect that, especially in the industrial sector, is key, because we are not only coming in to fill the void whereby the cost and reliability is an issue, but also we are coming in to reduce the carbon footprint, and secondly, offer employment opportunities. Back to your question, in terms of cost and reliability, there's been a major outcry, especially in the commercial and industrial sector, whereby the cost of production is high, and also the cost of energy is also high. So the end product, you realize, or the end price is also transferred to the end user. And this is the same thing that you realize when most of local companies are actually shifting to renewable energy. It tells you that they also come to realize that affordability is key, and also reliability is key. Because for you to have like a maximum production within a particular day, and you're having downtimes from the grid, then having a renewable energy source as an option isn't an option, actually. Yeah.
When you talk about solar energy, it's quite broad, yeah? And what people know in layman term is that you have to have solar panels and such. Maybe you can take us through when you say the products that are out there in the local market, what is available, especially to the commercial end, because that's where the main problem is. Manufacturers, private sector is really, you know, up in arms over the cost of power and, you know, the fact that it is not reliable. So what products are out there? So maybe we can understand it's not just about the solar panels.
Solar in general is quite broad, because for you to have the end product, which is the energy coming from the solar, originating from your solar panels, you have to have quite a number of equipments, ranging from the solar panel itself. We do have the inverters and quite a number of things. We also have step-down and up-down step-down transformers. And all this, you realize locally we are having quite a number of companies which are starting to look into the Kenyan market in terms of manufacturing locally, because for the longest time we've been manufacturing all these products and equipments from either the Far East or even the Middle East, or even in some cases from Europe. So availability as we speak at the moment, and looking at the interest that renewable energy or solar per se has brought about, you realize that the market itself is opening up, and looking at the market in the next like 2 or 3 years, trust you me, we'll be able to have, in terms of production, most of these equipments being produced locally, and this translates to affordable prices for mainly commercial and industrial customers.
Talking about markets, and we've talked about, we've seen a shift, you know, to renewable energy at least on our local level, Kenyan level. How does the market look like for renewable energy within the sub-Saharan, the large sub-Saharan Africa?
The market has immensely grown in the last 4 or 5 years, and there is also big opportunity for growth. Looking at several countries within East and Central Africa, you'll realize that we are moving towards an era whereby renewable energy, especially solar, people are trying to adapt and appreciate and believe that the future is actually on the renewable, the future is actually in green energy, solar per se. So comparing Kenya, or looking at Kenya and other several countries in sub-Saharan Africa, you realize that there's that growth and there's that interest. And mainly, you'll be able to see that there are quite a number of companies who have great interest in looking into this sector, especially in Central African countries. And they're coming in to fill the void that hasn't been filled for quite some time. So there's been an immense growth, and opportunities are coming in, day out. So we believe that in the next couple of years, we'll be able to say that, yes, we are finally achieving our goals.
Some of the feed that we're getting, the question is, can one be connected to the national grid and still have a solar alternative source of power? Can they coexist simultaneously and seamless?
Yeah, you can have both. You can be connected to the grid and at the same time connected to solar power. And this mainly, you realize that during daytime, looking at the Kenyan perspective, we do have roughly 6 to 7 hours of highest peak in terms of solar. And it's possible for you to actually use solar energy during daytime, then during nighttime when there's no sunshine, you quickly switch to solar energy. Apart from that, in terms of working seamlessly, yeah, it perfectly works well. And there are quite a number of mechanisms and equipments which allow this to happen. Yeah.
There is this perception that when you do solar, it's maybe to light up your house, such the basic. But we all know there's so much beyond solar energy. So if we were to harness solar energy, what is its possible, uses? In the household, let's not go on, just within the household, other than just lighting it up.
Solar, good question. Solar's source of energy has immense potential. It's only that for the longest time, I'll go back to the so-called public awareness. We've been made to believe that it's only, you can just use it for, basic uses. That's like lighting your house, powering your appliances like TV.
And cell phones.
Yeah, and cell phones. But you realize where we are at the moment. There are quite a number of equipments that people have already installed in their houses, and they're using solar energy, ranging from deep freezers, fridge, swimming pool heating, and all stuff like that. So there's immense potential.
So there's no limit to what solar energy can do?
There's no limit. It all depends with the capacity installed. So if you have an installation that is, for lack of a better word, big, you'll be able to accommodate all these things that I've mentioned. Yeah, it all depends with the capacity installed.
There's a lot of potential in solar energy, and what you talk about matters of renewable energy. There was a conversation around, some policy, to change some policy, especially when you're building new houses. Where have you gotten with that? Where it said that houses, new buildings have to have a solar heated water system, such and such. Where are we at in regard to that particular piece of policy, or rather document?
At the moment, it hasn't yet been implemented. And I remember sometimes back, it was a major issue whereby if you're coming up with a new apartment, you have to ensure that you install solar water heaters. But there was a major outcry, especially from the major stakeholders in the building and construction industry. So it hasn't yet been implemented. But it also creates big potential for those in the solar energy sector in terms of manufacturing, distribution, and stuff like that. But in as much as it hasn't yet been implemented, we appreciate the fact that people have already started to realize that in as much as we were a little bit reluctant switching to solar in terms of maybe installing solar water heaters, it's a high time that we embrace that and ensure that everything, in as much as the government was pushing us to do such stuff, but slowly by slowly you realize things have come into play, and people have started embracing solar energy in terms of having solar water heaters in their residential apartments.
So other than that proposed piece of regulation, and also the need that you've said to foster public awareness as to how much or rather potential solar energy has, from a person who's already in the value chain, what do you think can be done, especially from the private sector, to leapfrog this sector at a time we're living in times of climate change? So what can private sector do to leapfrog the uptake of renewable energy, solar in particular?
The private sector definitely plays a major role when you look at embracing or consuming renewables. One, this is a sector whereby, in terms of manufacturing, this is a sector whereby consumes a lot of energy. And once in a while, you'll realize that we do have downtimes. And this comes about due to the major fact that we don't have enough energy to supply all of us. And if the manufacturing sector switches to solar, you realize we'll have quite enough energy that will be able, a surplus actually, that will be able to supply to these other areas, be it residential or other manufacturing sectors. So it's a high time manufacturing sector also fully embraced solar energy, in that apart from in terms of reducing the cost or even reliability, the carbon footprint itself, because you realize usage of fossil fuel, there's a lot of CO2 that is released into the environment. So manufacturing sector, if they're able to embrace solar, the amount of carbon footprint that will be, or CO2 that will be released into the environment will be to the minimal. And will be able to actually even help conserve our environment. Yeah, because these are the major stakeholders, or these are the major consumers of energy, unlike the residential part.
Now we've established that there's a need to want to move, or rather shift to renewable energy, and in this perspective we're talking about solar energy. But now the issue of cost has come into play. Now we've seen a couple of partnerships between financiers and individuals wanting to go to solar. What is your take in regard to this matter, and what role can also manufacturers or people who in your value chain do to push for this traction, or rather this uptake?
Solar as a source of energy is quite much affordable than what is currently in the market. Yeah, studies have revealed that it's actually 30 to 50% cheaper than the grid. Then in terms of cost, you realize, yes, it may be a little bit, the cost might be a little bit much high, especially for the CNI sector, guys in the CNI sector. And that's why there are financiers in this industry who come in, help to finance, and not only finance, but also develop and also maintain. And that's what Renewables, we at Renewables in Africa are actually doing, because we realize there's that opportunity, the market is ready, but there are quite a number of challenges that the people in the commercial and industrial sector are also facing. And this is the initial cost, because you realize averagely an industry may be needing something to do like 1 megawatt plus. And the cost of installing 1 megawatt may be roughly $1.5 million. That's quite a lot. So we come in to fill that void and ensure that you, as a player in the CNI sector, we relieve you the pressure or the stress of having to install on yourself, all to do with the initial cost. So we do all this on your behalf. All you have to do is just consume the power and pay for what you've consumed, which I've actually mentioned will be roughly 30 to 50% cheaper. So that's the role companies like Renewables in Africa are playing. And it's an opportunity whereby quite a number of companies are also coming in, because they're seeing many organizations or companies in the industrial sector facing this problem, but they do also have the will of switching to solar. But the major challenge is financing. So what we are coming in to do is to ensure that we finance. Your job is to just consume the power and pay for what you consume. Yeah.
Financing, relations there, or rather dynamics. Now, there are very basic questions here that are coming in. If I'm putting up a solar, does it really matter where I live, or rather where I reside?
Good question. In yesteryears, it was a major issue, because you realize there are areas whereby it's like 70% of the times or of the day are mainly cloudy. But we are in the year 2021, it's no longer a major issue. You'll even go to Scandinavian countries and you'll see houses with solar panels. Compare Kenyan weather, whereby we are right next to the equator. So it's like 90% or throughout the year we do experience sun. And so to answer the question is that locally it's not an issue, because one, we do have solar panels that actually have the capability to produce energy even during cloudy days or even foggy days. Yeah.
Other than that, the next question is installation of solar a one-off in a lifetime? Or I think what they're trying to ask is this something that they have to do each and every time? You know, we are so used to paying these tokens, these postpaid, they don't want to do that. So is it a one-off investment?
Okay, it's a question that I've actually been encountering most of the time. Yeah, installing a solar panel, it's actually not a lifetime, you know.
It's not a one-off.
Yeah, it's not a one-off installation. But the thing is this. So, solar panels do have a lifetime of roughly 25 to 35 years. So you realize that's when you'll start thinking of maybe changing a panel and stuff like that. And it's quite, you realize 25 to 35 years is quite a long time.
That's an adult.
Yeah. So
with their own family.
Yeah.
you've literally become a grandma or a granddad.
Yeah. For inverters, it's something to do like 10 years. That's when you'll start maybe thinking of switching or changing, or, you know, having issues.
Inverter, let's understand. You know, we all assume that we all understand what an inverter is. It's just like when you're discussing an automobile and you're thinking everyone knows there's a gearbox, is what it does, it's plugs, la la la. So now, inverter.
Okay, in a layman's language, because
Yes.
Inverter is an equipment that helps you to, you know, to reduce the amount of energy that comes from your source, getting into your house for you to be able to maybe charge your phone or watch your TV and stuff like that. Yeah.
So it moderates the energy, or rather regulates the energy that is produced. Yeah, because we always assume that people understand the terms that we use. Yeah, so it's not. It's geography does not really affect, especially now where we are. As
technology has evolved, and geography doesn't really.
Geography is not a factor to look into. Now, 25 to 35 years. That is a lifespan of an average of solar panels. What you need to look out for is inverter, giving it 10 years.
Yeah.
Now, as we are headed to a close of this particular conversation, from a person who is already in the value chain, and we've been seeing government is really moving towards supporting renewable energy, do you think enough has been done to actually support this niche?
Okay, I can't say enough has been done per se, considering it's only last year in June whereby the government passed a bill increasing the VAT bill to 14%. Initially it was 16%, and it was totally done away with. Then they went back to 14%. And you realize for us to achieve universal access to energy, that is one aspect of the SDG 7. We have to ensure that we create a favorable environment for those in this sector of renewable energy. But for you to curtail by coming in with taxes, you know, that actually
working against
the industry, I don't think it's proper. So it's a high time that the government, in as much as they are supporting in terms of ensuring that renewable energy, solar to be specific, is fully embraced, but you realize we still do have policies and regulations that are working against embracing of renewable energy, solar per se. Till recently, you saw our utility company, whereby there was a major outcry looking at the major shift, especially in the commercial and industrial sector. The industry players switching to solar in very large numbers. And immediately there was a knee-jerk reaction from our utility company and our regulators, whereby they were coming in with a set of regulations that were seen to be like, hey, giving guys in the renewable energy sector break, asking you guys, you need to go slow. And these are some of the things that we are seeing are not making the uptake or are not making the environment conducive for the renewable energy sector. Yeah.
Now, because we've mentioned and we said that the issue of lack of public awareness as to what options are out there, what to look out for when you're going to purchase, some of the products. How about you just share with our viewers this morning how we can get more information from Renewable in Africa, Renewables in Africa? I don't know if you have RIA, if you have a website of sorts, if you have, not everything is digital. Do you have an Instagram page and such? How do people get this information, at least across the social media platform?
Renewables in Africa, apart from being a clean energy engineering company, it's actually a two-in-one company. It's also a media platform raising awareness on renewables. So we do this by having articles published regularly on our website. We do also conduct webinars and seminars, so hosting quite a number of top industry players within the renewable energy sector. And we've also participated in quite a number of events internationally. So we have our website, Renewables in Africa. We do also have our LinkedIn page, Facebook page, and also...
Maybe you can share your website for someone who cares to read some of the papers that you've made public in regard to this issue.
Renewablesinafrica.com.
Renewablesinafrica.com.
So from there you'll be able to get access or more information, and also you'll be able to find our other social media pages. Yeah, apart from that, Renewables in Africa is also focusing on building an army of solar developers, because unfortunately locally you'll realize large-scale solar projects, most EPC companies do come from outside. These are companies that come to procure and also construct, and most of them locally realize are from outside. So Renewables in Africa is focusing, is also aiming at building an army of solar developers, and that's why we also came up with our solar masterclass, whereby we are imparting knowledge to those who are interested in becoming solar developers. Locally, we're also building relationships and partnerships with institutions of higher learning. Still, discussions are in initial stages with a number of universities locally, because we'd like to have our own, developers, not necessarily like if you have a project locally that is, let's say, like 5 megawatts, you have to, bring in or ship in guys from either
outside.
Europe. Yeah, so that's what we are currently...
create a niche, our own local niche.
Yeah.
Well, if you've been tuning in, we've been talking about matters of renewable energy and what the future portends for solar energy in the country. With me in studio has been none other than Oluoch Were, who is the Regional Director, Kenya and East Africa for Renewables in African